Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve. Today I'm joined by Dingo from Dingo Doodles. How you doing today?
Hi. Thanks for having me here. I'm doing
Uh,
pretty good.
well, thanks for coming on. And I guess real fast, can you kind of like give people the elevator pitch of who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dingo from Dingo Doodles on YouTube. I essentially do an animated D&D series about a campaign I was in called Fool's Gold, and it's like episodic. And so far I just launched episode 19, so it's got quite a library of storytelling of this one campaign I've been in. So maybe check it out if you want to see some crazy uh stories and my misadventures with my friends. So, yeah.
So how long have you been creating on YouTube now?
It's coming up to 3 years actually. Oh wait. Oh no, I missed my anniversary. It was 2 days ago. Oh well.
Happy anniversary!
Happy anniversary. 2 days ago it was 3 years. So I have been doing this for 3 years
Wow, that
so
was a
far.
fast 3 years.
I know, right? Like, yeah, it's insane
Well,
what's happened since.
it's kind of funny because like I was telling you before we got started, but like I had found your channel like right after you launched your first video, just by happenstance. I don't even know how I found it. Um, but to watch you go, like I watched it, your video, and it was really entertaining. The animation was really fun and cool, and you were at like 9,000 views, and then Nate had been working with us at the time. I was like, "Hey, Nate, check this out," and it was like the next day, and it was like at 90,000 views, like overnight, which is crazy.
Yeah, it really like just blew up overnight, and I just remember like just watching it grow, and then the subscribers coming in. Like in a week I had like 30,000 subscribers, which is like insane. So I had to keep, it was funny, the next video I was working on, which was a life video, I had to keep changing the line of me being like, oh, I guess there's like 20,000 of you here, and then I have to go re-record it and be like 30,000, okay, now it's 40,000, like and then eventually I just had to like just draw it in to be like, here's my change. It's actually 45,000 at the moment of me animating this. And then I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, okay, I had to keep changing it.
I would have just
But
given. There's damn it. There's a lot of you.
yeah, 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 it was just like, it was quite overwhelming. And I got 100,000 in 4 months, which was a lot. And
But so like YouTube's not where you started. Though you were doing some other things first.
yeah, I was doing comics since I was 18. So it was pretty much like as soon as I went out of high school, I decided to launch my own website and do something called Electric Bunny Comics, which was like one-off little comics. So they would be about like 9 panels or so, and I would try to do it every week. So every Thursday
Yeah.
I'd have a post. And so I did that for, well, until I did that until YouTube. So I mean, I started YouTube when I was 23. Yeah, 23. So, it's just like I had like 5 years of doing comics.
So you're like a
Um,
5 year overnight success.
yeah, 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 exactly. It's just like it's an overnight, but my God, I had to work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's pretty common. Like someone, people will see someone do something and see them kind of like explode onto a scene. And but what they don't see is like all the work they had to do before that, right? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, like you're super talented and your animations are fun and you're a great storyteller, and that's what like really drove it. But you had that base of that fan base already that really helped explode the algorithm early um, on YouTube. Like Logan from RuneSmith was like that too because he had worked with XP to level 3 for a long time. So when he started his YouTube channel, he started with like 25,000 subscribers right from the door
yeah,
get go. And when you do that, YouTube scratches his head and goes, "What's going on here?" and sends a bunch of people to come check out your stuff, which is super
yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's great to just have like a launching pad, like I think when I launched into YouTube, I had 15,000 people knowing me on Facebook for my comics and stuff. So I
Yeah.
was just like, here's my videos. And then I just hoped that some people might be interested. And plus, I think it helped that when I posted my video, the D&D video, I at Ben,
Yeah.
Puffin Forest. So I was just like, I at him and I was just like, hey, you inspired me to kind of just go for it. And then he also like retweeted it or something. And so that might have also helped. So
Oh, I'm sure that absolutely helped as well.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
And now it looks like you're poised to pass him soon. You're closing in.
I don't even know. I don't know. He always seems to be a little bit farther ahead. And I mean, Joe is like, like, I don't know if you've
Oh
seen
yeah,
Joe
Joe
Cat
Cat.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's on another level. But I
yeah.
mean,
I thought
just
it was
happy
cool
for
when I
him.
saw you, Puffin, and um Z doing stuff together,
Yeah.
and I was like, super. I thought that was super cool. Although Z cheats, just gonna put it out there, Z cheats, because he was actually a professional animator.
Yeah. Yeah, he has the skills, man. Like stuff
Yeah,
is wild.
he's so good. Like, um, when I guess we had him on like a couple years ago, and like he did like the Red Bull commercial and stuff. I'm like, oh, you're not like an amateur D&D animator. You're the real deal. You did like I seen your stuff on TV.
Yeah, he's bonkers and like he has such good stuff. And it was great where when I started YouTube, I contacted Ben and then I was like, hey, do you want to do something together? And then he was like, yeah, let's do something together. And then from there, I was like, being like, well, now I want to talk to Z because
Yeah,
Z also was an inspiration for me to do D&D stuff too. So I contacted him and then eventually like we all just went into a Discord together and just started to talk a lot. And
yeah,
we realized that we all had kind of like the same like issues to talk about when it came to like YouTube or like, like animating and stuff. And then
yeah.
eventually we kind of from there we've been launching like a pad for people who are D&D animators to come into this like Discord to all just talk and like build up their community and stuff like that. So it was like it's cool where you meet people and it builds and builds and then eventually you just become really good friends. Like I have I have a game with him this I have Z and Ben. We're doing a game on Saturday for the Bards for Bards charity that's going on right now.
Oh, cool.
So we're gonna be doing our cleric amen group, which is like the one-offs that we do. So we're gonna play that. And it's just like it's really fun that you just kind of meet these people and be like, yeah, let's do something together. Let's make something. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. What? When did it become like kind of real for you? And you're like, oh, D&D is kind of like my job now.
Um, hmm. Probably after like episode 5, I think. Because it was like I was consistently going back and forth with the idea of like, am I doing this? Am I not? What's happening? Because stop. I have episode 1, 2, and 3, and then I did a Halloween one or whatever, and I was doing these for fun, but they were starting to really get momentum, and I was starting to get more people that were just like really interested in it, and I was interested in the story, and eventually I think yeah, it was episode 5 or 6 when I eventually confirmed that I was like, I guess I'm doing this because I'm in too deep.
Yeah,
So
I've gone too far.
I've got too far. I have to do it now. So I eventually just decided that it's like, yeah, I guess this is my job right now, which is like my boyfriend. He's just like, how is this happening? Because you hated D&D when we first started. When we like I hated D&D for the first couple of years just because I hated the mechanics. I hated learning about math. Like it really felt like just I was back in math class, and 3.5 is very complicated, and like if you take it spell resistance and then you have all these like other levels that you have to deal with. And
Isn't there a Gustav meme like that? Like he's got the D&D books and is like, this is just math.
Yeah, this is just math. And I was just so I loved playing with my friends. I loved
uh,
making funny stories, but the mechanics really like oh, I hated leveling up. I hated it. Like when people were just like, "You level up." And I'm like, "No. I have to figure out how this works again." Um but I eventually got it. Like I understood it now. And now I'm totally absolutely adore the mechanics. I really love 3.5 actually. Um but it was a learning curve for me because I never played a tabletop before ever. D&D was my very first one. So and I didn't really have board games growing up much either. So other than like really standard stuff, but this was my first kind of like, oh, this is a tabletop, and like this is, you got to use the dice and everything like that. So it was a learning curve and I figured it out, but didn't think it was gonna be my career. That's for sure. If somebody
life's
told me that
uh,
when I first started D&D, that'd be like, you're gonna do this for a living, I'd be like, no, thank you.
yeah. I
So
mean, when I first started playing D&D, I couldn't imagine anybody doing this for a living. Maybe if you wrote the books, and now it's
yeah,
almost like the easiest way to do D&D for a living is to actually be the person that doesn't write the books. I feel like
yeah.
us that we kind of like work in and around the people that make the stuff for us. It's like easier somehow. It's bizarre. I actually feel guilty over it.
Aw, don't feel guilty. We get to all share this.
Well, that's true.
Like D and D
Yeah,
is
I
about
mean, like
sharing.
unless you work for like a big company, it's really hard to work in this industry as a
Hmm.
profession. It's almost easier for us to be doing like entertainment about it than it is to actually do the thing that we talk about.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's kind of like you take something like D&D and then you have to kind of like morph it into something that's your own, like your own uniqueness about it. Like when you commentate, you have your own thoughts and opinions on it, so you kind of add to the journey of D&D, right? So it's interesting. And for me, I definitely was like, am I just like taking from D&D and just like taking advantage of it or something? But no, it's completely different because I'm telling a story, and I think that's I'm just using the mechanics of D&D, so.
Yeah, I was telling my son last night I was having you on. I was like, "Do you know who Dingo Doodles is?" And he's like, "I think so." And then he like looked it up. He's like, "Oh, Sips." And I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, the monkey. Everybody knows Sips. Everybody's just like, yeah, the wild magic monkey.
yeah. You're just the hands that make Sips."
Yeah, pretty much.
Have you branched out from D&D yet?
Like trying other tabletops?
Yeah,
I have not, but I think that's a lot to do with COVID. Like I think it's
yeah.
one of those things where like I want to do more. I wanted to maybe try doing a Call of Cthulhu. And also my friend plays Masks or whatever. That one seemed cool. But I haven't done much on that part.
I
So,
have not. I haven't actually played either of those yet. Are you a
mhm.
big horror fan?
uh I'm a psychological horror fan. I love that psychological stuff. So I
Yeah.
love the mechanic of like insanity and everything. Like that seems really cool to me. So I would like to dive into that and see if it would be worth it for me. But I also really like D&D's fantasy setting. So it's hard for me to think about doing stuff in like, modern-ish day. I know it's
Yeah.
like takes place in like the 1930s, 1940s or so. But it's still like I prefer D&D because I love the whole like, you know, it's carts and horses and knights and dragons and stuff like that. I'm very excited about that stuff more than anything.
Yeah, I used to be like that too. Like, it was always like fantasy, 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 and then I did that for like 20 years or so. After a decade or so, I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? Maybe I should branch out and broaden my horizons.
Yeah, I guess it's just like it's just one of those points where it's like, when are you tired of eating cake? And it's like then you move on to pie. So, it's like you got to think about what your taste is, and then eventually, yeah, you might just get tired of it and move on to something else.
Uh, so I think, I mean, you kind of talked about this a little bit, probably before you got on Pravnar, uh, Pranav. They want to know what age when you started D&D as your profession.
Oh, as like a profession? Like, I mean, I started D&D as a profession, I guess, when I was 20. Well, I guess it would have been right when I started YouTube. So 23, going on to 24, probably. So, I mean, I'm turning 27 this year. So, it's almost 3 years. So,
Nice. So during COVID, do you find yourself playing less than usual? You said.
yeah, I am. I mean, usually we had 3 campaigns going on, and we would all meet in person. So right now, currently, one's on the back burner, and the other 2 are still going on. Um, but we have very small groups. Like, we have 3 players, 1 DM for one, and then we have 2 players and 1 DM. So it's like very, very small group, and we do meet in person for that. But that's because we're able to have, for the restrictions in my area, go for that. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because but that's about it because I'm in Canada, so just so you guys know. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're taking it cautious, but it's not as much as I would like to play, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping that when um I'm actually moving in a couple months, so I'm hoping when I move, maybe I can amp up, meet some people. I've definitely found out that there's some people that in the area I'm going to be moving to that are like there's D&D clubs and stuff I'd
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
go check out. So
Come online. There's plenty of games online. I've actually
yeah.
talked to a lot of people that their gaming like ramped up during COVID just
Hmm.
because like not it really didn't have much to do with them. It was just the people around them were just available more. I mean, all the games are happening virtually, but they just like their friends were more available than they had been previously. Um,
Mm, mm,
and then last week, so there's this newish company called Described, and they like it's like a subscription service for box text, and they like have box text. But like one of the co-founders just started playing D&D because of COVID, and I think that's happened a lot too. Like people
mhm.
are cooped up, and they're also Canadians actually. Um, but I think a lot of people are just cooped up and they're like need something to do, and so now it's like they're trying out D&D for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really like, I think COVID is helping the D&D industry in that sense of just being like, because people can live in a totally different world that doesn't have a pandemic. So
Yeah,
it's like
I mean, we were joking for a while, like that Roll20 and Zoom got together and, and launched COVID in order to skyrocket their profits.
yeah, just to get it all. Yeah, yeah. It's funny, the one campaign we have on the back burner, which is mine, like I DM it.
Uh,
Uh I put it on the back burner because I've been really busy and also just like trying to figure out how to DM. But also the entire premise kind of has a pandemic in it. So I was like,
yeah,
I think we're gonna stop that for a bit just so
this
I
feels a little too real.
yeah, it hits a little too close to home. I think I'm just gonna wait on that one for a bit. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like,
In the beginning of the pandemic too, there was a couple of different companies that launched things that had to do with like plagues and diseases and stuff like that, and it was just like
it's like no.
it just happened that way.
Yeah, it's just poor timing. Like, oh no. I don't blame them. So,
So Brian wants to know, how do you draw Cthulhu? How?
how do I draw Cthulhu? I mean, look up reference, I guess, and
Just
dig deep in.
tentacles and big octopus head,
Yeah, yeah, just tentacles, octopus head, and then just put
tiny
I don't
wings.
know. Yeah, put little wings on it and then it's fine.
So
Yeah.
if you start experimenting with other games, does that mean we'll get some other RPG Dingo Doodles content?
Oh God. I like it would only be one-off videos though. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
like a whole series because I have to commit to one. I can't
Yeah.
do
How long does it
multiple
take
series.
to do a video for you?
An episode?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it usually takes me about a month and a half to 2 months. So, but that's because I kind of ramped it up a bit.
Yeah.
And it used to take me only about a month and like a week. But I've been ramping up the quality, but also the length. Like, I'm trying to get better at, um, like, I'm writing this whole series kind of off of like a TV show, like I'm trying to
Yeah.
keep it like a TV show in a way. Because that's my end goal,
Mhm.
is at the end of all of this, when I have my big project done, I'm going to move on to television and writing television. So I'm hoping to use this as kind of like a sandbox just to like work on it. So yeah, it's I think my last episode was 17 minutes or so, and so I'm kind of like I'm
Yeah.
within that like 15-minute style video where my previous ones used to be just 10 minutes. So you have to
Yeah,
think
that's a
about.
big difference. I mean, if you look at Z, like I think one time I watched Z's video just because it was it looked super long. Like when I saw the timestamp, and and by super long I mean like 10 minutes or something, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, what? And then it was like 3 or 4 minutes in, it cuts away from the animated stuff to actually end. I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, yeah. Was that the recent one he had? Like
Nah,
the
nah, this was
cold
from a little while
road?
ago.
Okay, okay. Because he had Cold Roads. I think it's the one he was doing. Because he's also kind of doing an animated series now, which I'm super excited about. But he he has this video done, and I don't remember how long it was, but it's around probably the 10-minute mark as well. And it does cut halfway through, and
Yeah.
you just see Z, and he's like, "Look, that part you just saw took me like 3 weeks." So, and it was only like a couple minutes long. So I'm gonna amp down the quality right now, and the rest of the quality of this
Yeah.
video is gonna be like this. So
Yeah.
it was just like, yeah, it's tough, and you have to like pick and choose your battles when it comes to making a video that's lengthy. So,
So what do you put out, like a video a month then?
yeah, I would say like I put out a video every month to 2 months when it comes to like an episode. I
Mhm.
try to do an like Q&A videos in between, which
Okay.
is like it's just speed paints, but the whole point of the Q&As is supposed to like answer questions from like the previous episodes and like what people are asking for the characters. Like we'll do in character interviews of the characters being like asked questions, and then you have to like play through it. So I've done interviews with like Gothy's player and Arena's player, and like I want to do Gorthan and Julian's, but because of COVID it's hard to reach them right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, with like today actually I'm going to be recording a in character interview with me as Sips. So yeah, it's like a buffer in between to just kind of like keep keep it going in my channel, but also like I get to answer and talk to my audience and kind of chill out for a moment, and then I can start doing the next episode. So,
Is there a
yeah.
fan favorite character from your audience?
Uh oh, that's hard because I think a lot of them are like, "Oh, we love Gothy," or like, "Oh, we love Sips," or like right now people are huge on Vicky, which is like this little orc uh orc girl
Uh,
that is an NPC that Felix made for the campaign, and she's like Sips's bane at the moment. So uh she's just like a little girl that's trying to be his friend, and that
yeah.
was really fun to play. That was such great sessions. Oh my god, I would highly recommend that kind of dynamic. It's so funny. It's so fun. um
So, a lot of your videos are, stories from your D&D groups, right?
mhm.
Like, And we touched on this a little bit before we got started, and so like so you're telling these stories about like your friends that you're playing the games with. Um, so did they discover this by you going, oh, by the way, I'm making these videos and it's about the games, or did they like come to your channel and be like, hey, wait a minute, this is about
Yeah.
us?
No, it was definitely like it was the first option. It was like the first thing of being like, "Hey, so I did like they knew I was working on the karaoke video, like the very
Yeah,
first one. And I actually showed them the video before I even posted it. Because I wanted to make sure that they were okay with like me talking about it in general. So but I completely changed the characters because I thought this was just going to be a one deal, like a one
yeah,
video deal. Cause I was like, my character's like the only one that I'm really talking about because he's the one that messed up. So I just was like, okay, let's do that. Um, but then it blew up, as you know, and then I was like, I could try to make a series out of this because nobody's ever done that, and I don't know if it would work, but I'm gonna try. And then, so the second episode, I brought in the actual characters because I was like, well, now we have to actually dive into this and bring them in. And that one, I didn't tell them yet. I didn't tell them about that yet.
yeah,
Uh, it was pretty much like they knew I was making a second episode, but they didn't understand that I was actually going to just be like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. And then,
yeah,
uh, so I did. They knew about it when it came out. Like I talked to them about it after, and they were excited because they were like, nobody's ever done this before, and it's cool that we get to be the ones who are in it.
yeah,
It's just like, well, so they get to hear their character stories, and they're very happy with what I've done so far. I haven't had any issues, or if I ever do something with their character that they're like, I don't think my character said that, or like, actually, I think they would be more scared than like happy or something like that. So I was
yeah,
like, oh, okay, then I switch it. I make sure that like that they're informed
yeah,
if I'm doing anything. And like Gothy's player I've worked with a lot because like I send her scripts all the time. Like whenever I'm done a script, I send it to her and she gets to read it over as well because I want to make sure that she feels comfortable with it too. And like she always sees my progress in the video. So yeah. And then Felix, of course, like he's my boyfriend, so he sees progress every single day. So I do about a minute a day. That's my goals. So it's
uh-huh.
just like, so animation, I do a minute, and then every day he looks at it and critiques it, and then I move on to the next minute the next day. So yeah,
And how
it's
long does a minute take?
I mean that's a full 8 hours of work.
Yeah, that's
So yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. But believe it or not, like I move really fast comparatively to like other animators. Because a minute, like I remember talking to Z and he was like, a minute a day? Like my God, like he said the most he ever got done in a day was like 15 seconds.
Oh
So it
wow.
was just like, yeah, it's like completely different on the style and everything. But I also don't do anything in color. I don't do full animation like he does with
Uh-huh.
the in-betweens. And then I completely like I use old assets because I need to like cut corners and just go.
Yeah.
So yeah, you
Hey,
just have to
whatever it
move on.
takes. I mean, you know, the fan base still seems to enjoy it, so that's all that matters. And you're telling fun stories.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things for I have like three safety nets. It's like if the animation falls through, then hopefully the writing picks it up. Or if
Yeah,
the writing doesn't pick up, hopefully the voice acting picks it up. It's just like you have all these layers of like, well, if you fail on this, maybe this will pick it up,
yeah.
and make it better and make this scene better. So, yeah, that's pretty much what you got to do when it comes to all of that.
Since you've been doing all this voice work kind of with your YouTube channel and your videos, has that affected how you play D&D in your home games?
The voice work, yeah, definitely. I am more confident, and I can actually like really dive into acting better.
Yeah,
So it's I've started to discover like other accents and um doing more uh just like scale of your voice, like low and then high and then that kind of thing. So it's definitely been helping me a lot. when it comes
How many
to
different characters are you voicing now?
like in the series.
Yeah.
I mean, I voiced them all, so it's like I would say the core, like the consistent core, I would say I'm voicing at least 5 characters per episode, like individual,
Yeah.
or 5 or 6, and then of course you have NPCs that come in and pop in, and I try to do different voices for them, and um, when I do accents, it's like I make fun of it in the series. Like if you watch an episode and I start doing a French accent, the other character goes, "Oh my God, are you doing a French accent?" And it's like, and it's just, it's just like, really, we're doing accents? And it's like,
Mm.
well, yes, and it's just, I like to poke fun at myself for that because it's like nobody knows how to do this right away, so I'm just gonna have to figure it out. But unfortunately, I'm experimenting in front of a lot of people, so
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if I mess up, it's just like, well, you know.
It's all right. They can't see your face though, so it's
Yeah, yeah, at least not not
okay. You can
not
hide behind
yeah.
the animation.
Yeah, pretty much just behind my character.
Do you have any tips for someone that wants to do more voice work in their games? Like, is it hard? Do you find it hard to sometimes like keep the characters separated?
Yeah, it can be hard. You would not believe on what you can do if you just move your mouth in a different way. So it's just like if you move your mouth kind of like this, it like it complete like physically if you move your mouth, it helps you keep that character. So if you want to do somebody who's like really low, then you just move your head low and trying to bring yourself low. But sometimes the physical cues can actually keep you in the character. At least it helps for me, but sometimes you have to really push things through. uh it takes a couple sessions for me to get an accent down, and even then it's not a great accent, but I remember I was trying to do British, like a British
Yeah.
accent, and that's always just like, oh God. But I have a really great group of friends where
Yeah.
they see me wavering and they're like, no, 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 keep
Push
going.
through.
And I was just,
Yeah.
yeah, push through, just keep going. And then eventually I feel a lot more confident doing a British accent than I did at the beginning. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you have to push through it and realize that this is for fun, right? And it's all fun, and you can make
Yeah.
fun of yourself, and it's fine. And hopefully you have a group of people who are very supportive and just being like, no, you're doing great, keep going. It's like, so yeah.
I can't do accents at all. I'll experiment with voices, but like I find that I always like end up dropping them, or everything ends up mushing together at some point.
Mm. Yeah, it's also it's also like keeping that confidence with it too, because it's very easy to get discouraged as well and just kind of be because everybody else is like just doing their normal voice or something like that, and then you're just like, oh cool, I'm the odd one out.
Yeah,
But
I'm the weirdo. Yeah.
I'm the weirdo. But the fun thing about it is that it's like i- it's for me, it's one of those things where I feel sometimes more comfortable when I'm ridiculous.
Okay. Yeah.
So which I know is not the norm for a lot of people, but it's definitely like if I'm gonna lean into it, I lean into it hard. Because
Yeah.
it's like, well, I'm here, I'm gonna do it, I guess. And then I have, like I said, I have a really supportive group of friends that are just like totally into it. So
Yeah, I mean, even like at our table where there's not a lot of people doing voices, I never feel like if someone does, anyone's like judging them or whatever.
mhm.
So I feel like it's self-imposed, right? Like I say
Yeah, it's
like,
internal
yeah.
for sure. It's sad because it's like
Nobody
we
really
have
cares.
yeah, nobody cares, and it's
Yeah.
just like it's fun, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, nobody cares except you yourself on the inside, because you're
Yeah.
not used to being like that, it's just such a like role playing is such a different muscle, that you haven't used before since you were a kid,
Yeah.
right?
That's what I often
So
say when they describe the hobby is we're just adults rolling funny shaped dice and playing make believe.
Yeah, it's literally just like playing pretend, but with like dragons that are can
Yeah.
kill you. That your character can die. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things, especially for like, I mean, did you have like what's your group like for role play? Like, do you guys go hard? Do you like kind of
So
talk your way through things, or do you act your way through things?
I think it's like somewhere's in the middle. Like,
Hmm.
and like at any given time, like different people are at different places in our group. Like we have one player in the one group that always talks in character. When he talks as himself, you know he's not in character, right? Like
Yeah.
it's super easy. And then we have some players that'll just talk in third person, and then like I think the majority of us will talk in character, but not necessarily do voices or accents or anything like that. Um, so we're like all over the map when it comes to that stuff. And also, I feel like our group is like really welcoming to like whatever you want to do or however you want to play. Like, I would never want anyone to be judged in a group because they don't role play hard enough.
Yeah.
But on the other end of the spectrum, like if that's their thing, let them have their fun. You know, like
Yeah, no, it's a balance, and like
yeah,
i- it's one of those things where um like with my group, like we wouldn't have a problem if you didn't want to role play, but we would encourage you. You know,
yeah,
it's just like because we would be like the biggest encouragement you can do with somebody who wants to get into role, like to be a role player, is the DM being like, okay, you, how do you do that? Like how do you say that to that
yeah,
NPC? You know, what are you, what's your mood? You know, what are you like, how do you feel about this? And they can start it with just being like, well, he's really mad. So he's going to say that, you know, da 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 da, he's mad. And that's fine. That's actually a really good like start. And then you slowly build it up where they don't even have to say what emotion they have. They just, you feel it when they talk about it. But people don't have to role play, but it's definitely in my group. Absolutely. So,
yeah. And even as a player, like if you role play with someone, like I feel like they'll start getting more comfortable with it as well. You know,
mhm.
they'll more than likely meet you somewheres in the middle.
Yeah.
And people can grow into it. You know, like it is very weird as an adult, like doing this hobby. And when you're new to it, like I remember, this is probably going back like 20 years, and my brother was in college, and we were gaming at his house, and like he had a bunch of roommates, and like kind of like a party sprung up around like our gaming, our gaming session, and it was super weird, and I felt
Yeah.
super uncomfortable all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That would be horrible. That sounds like
Yeah,
a nightmare.
yeah, it did. It's like waking up, or it's like being in a nightmare, and like you're in front of the class in your underwear or something all of a
Yeah.
sudden.
And you have dice in your hand.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just like, I mean, I've had that experience, but it was like I was playing with all my friends at my parents' house, and my mom came into the room and she sat down in like in the room to listen to us play because she was intrigued by it, and I was
yeah.
like, "Mom, leave, please."
This is so
It's
weird.
like this is so weird, but she's like super intrigued. She's like, "Oh, but I want to know what's going on," and it's like,
Yeah,
"Mom, please leave," because it's such a personal thing to do that, you know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like role playing feels very personal to me. Like it's very much just like it takes a lot for you to be comfortable with doing it in front of people. So
As I've always said, like the idea of like one on one gaming to
mhm.
me is really would be really hard because like to me that's like almost like intimate, but it's just like you and a GM role playing and playing the game. Like that's like to me that's like RPGs on hardcore mode.
I that was my first campaign. I
Yeah,
did that. So I did a one-on-one with my boyfriend, and I was the DM and he was the player. And it's nice because it is intimate because it's like he's my boyfriend, so it's like who else would
yeah,
I do it
yeah,
with, right? Um but I had to like voice like 8 NPCs at once. It was just like they're all in the room, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I gotta change my voice. I gotta make sure that he knows what's going on. And I would get really into it of being like these really dramatic moments of just like
Yeah.
shouting at him and stuff like that. And actually that was one of my favorite campaigns because that was the one where I broke him. Like I don't know if you've ever broke a player, but like I did such a plot reveal that he stopped for 5 minutes and he's like I had to leave because I was like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, I have to
Yeah.
think." It's like I have to think, and it's like, okay, all right. I hope I did. I hope I did
I
it
had a
okay.
player like start to cry on stream
Oh no.
because of the scene that happened. It wasn't anything like really like bad per se. It was just like really emotional and
Yeah.
intense. And for me, like that was the like one of the that was the first time that happened, and I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, what are we doing here? Wait a minute, there's no crying in D&D.
There's yeah,
Yeah,
I've cried only once or twice in D&D. So it's like, and it takes a lot for me to cry. I don't cry for movies.
yeah,
I'm a very hardcore, like I don't cry. Um but it was the end of a campaign and one of the NPCs had was dying, but it wasn't like the dramatic like, oh god, die. It was more like we sat down at a pond and
yeah,
we saw him starting to disintegrate into fireflies because he had used up his body and we weren't
yeah,
going to get him back. There was no getting him back. And it was just like we sat down and held
yeah,
his hand while he died. And it was like, ah, like I had to
yeah.
cry.
So the the group they needed like special ingredients to cure this like outbreak of in that game I had this drug called stank, and it was harvested from troglodyte glands, and
Mm.
like if they went through withdrawal for too long they would like turn into troglodytes. um so they were looking for the cure to turn them back, and so they had to bargain with hags. And the very same player was like, I bet this is going to be like some fairy tale stuff. We're not going to be able to just go buy it. And I was like, I guess it is now. Um, and so like they had to trade things for them, and mostly it was like memories and emotions and stuff. So for her character, she had they had a dog. It's just a regular dog, Monty, that they would ride, and they had the dog through the whole campaign. And their character had to trade their connection with the dog. So
Oh.
it's like the dog and the character knew they were important to each other, but they didn't know why. Like all the memories were around them were removed.
Mm.
And but like everybody else knew everything that about the dog and the
Yeah.
character, and the dog knew like the other characters, so they just had this like loss, and like that was like super emotional uh,
Yeah.
for that character. And then there was another time that we had these two goblins that were based off of juggalos. So there were gobblos, and I didn't know what a juggalo was at the time. I had to do some research, and that was a deep dark hole of
Yeah.
humanity that I went
Yeah, yeah,
down.
yeah. You're like, yeah.
And but so what happened was like this old woman was like super rich, and but she had lost her sons and her husband to adventuring, and so she became a patron to these characters because they were entertainers and they would perform. And so like she kind of adopted them, and then at some point in the campaign she died of old age.
Mm.
And like they I had an NPC come get them to come say goodbye before she passed away, and it was just like real emotional because there was nothing they could do. And then she like left them all of her stuff. Um, but yeah, but those characters are always like really jokey and um, the comic relief. But it was kind of cool to like add that like moment of dramatic tension in there. So that
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
upsetting for one of the characters as well.
yeah.
So there was a question earlier, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. I don't know if you want to go into it any further, if you can, or not. But Dave Smith had asked, "Hi Dingo, are you having any future plans on coming on any television serial?" So you'd mentioned something about wanting to do TV work.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, so a bit of background on me specifically is when I was doing animation school. Uh, I also was part of a program called the Pilot Program or Writers Program for Nickelodeon. So I did a thing with Nickelodeon for like a year or two or whatever, and like making pilots and then just like pitching them and blah 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 blah. So from there on out, I had been since then, I was like 20, I've been writing pilots for like shows and everything.
Uh huh.
And so like television's always been a thing I've really wanted to get into is like creating something. But what I've realized through YouTube is I really love retelling D&D stories because it's so organic and so like you have a writer's table pretty much. That's what D&D feels like to me, is that you have a writer's table. You put out an idea and then people kind of like shut it down or not. So the whole thing I really want to do after the Fool's Gold series is I want to take a campaign that I'm currently in at the moment and turn it into a pilot as well and pitch it. So, make a like a Bible and do your pilot and all the other things you need for the pitch. So I'm hoping after Fool's Gold, this is going to be my next move, which means I won't be on YouTube anymore. So that's one of those things where I would transition out. This is like a stepping stone for me, not a final destination. So
Come on, Dingo. Nobody does TV anymore.
yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, I guess you're right. Netflix.
Yeah, yeah.
We're doing Netflix then.
Yeah. I mean, do you have cable?
No.
No, nobody your age does.
No.
Like my wife was devastated when I cut the cord. Like cuz like so like Gen X, we're like in the middle somewhere where we're still like some of us are still on the cord, some of us have cut the cord, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But like after us, nobody does that, right? It's like maybe subscription services and like
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Is I would like to, I guess when I say television, I mean like
yeah.
mainstream media.
Yeah. It just doesn't mean the same anymore. I
No.
mean to some degrees too. It's just like there's definitely programs like Critical Role gets more viewership than some mainstream media. So yeah. So what you really got to
Yeah.
do is just have a Kickstarter and get about $11 million roughly. And then you can do your show.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, it's definitely one of those things where like I do find it that Critical Role with their animated series is like a huge like feather in my cap of just being like, oh thank God somebody else wants to do it. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
plus I know Taz is doing it too. So the Adventure Zone.
yeah.
I think they're going to be doing an animated series as well from their first campaign. So it's like I see all these things, they're kind of like paving the way for me in a way.
Hmm.
um so I'm hoping to kind of like take that to my advantage. And I already have like my family are all artsy fartsy people. I got
Yeah.
very lucky with that. But my sister, she's in the industry as well, like the animation industry. So we made pilots together and everything. So I'm hoping that I can kind of just like get knowledge from her on kind of how to tackle this. But
Okay.
that's a ways away though. That's a few years.
So, Brian asked, "Do you have any advice? Best way to recap a storyline? I've got two different groups of PCs that have been apart for a month. Now they're all back together."
So they're asking like how would I recap that? Like in
Yeah,
a
like recaps on your sessions. I mean, that's essentially what you do, right? With your stories is Um, you find you take a lot more notes now in your D&D games than maybe you did in the past?
No, actually, because I have a really great memory for this
Oh,
stuff.
well, that's also super helpful. I do not.
Yeah, it's like for some
Yeah.
reason with stories and stuff, I can always be like, that happened like this and that happened like this. Like that's why in my campaign, uh like my group knows me as like the foreshadowing queen because I can
Yeah.
tell you like every little detail of being like, well, that's because of this, because you like
Yeah.
touched that like so long ago. And they're like, no, they definitely realize that it's like, yeah, I just have a really good memory for that stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess my advice for anybody who wants to recap stuff, it's always like you have to find the core. Like, what is the core of the entire session? What was the core? And you have to work your way from there. And try to explain it to someone like you're trying to explain it to your grandmother. That's always really good advice I find because it's like, you know, some people don't. I'm talking about from an animated series perspective, but if you ever wanted to take your session and animate them and recap stuff, then make it sound like, the bare minimum basics and, like you're trying to explain it to your grandmother at a party or something like that. So, yeah, that's how I usually tackle it when I get stuck.
Yeah. Charles Kahn also mentions like having them do the recap, which I'm a huge fan of, having the players
Yeah.
recap, because what I like about that is it lets you know what they thought was important,
Yep.
and I'll take notes from that and be like, okay, this other idea that I had, maybe isn't as good as the one that they have, or this is the direction they seem to want to go in, so I'll just change it.
Yes. Yeah, we actually always do that. We always have the players recap because the DM just wants to sit back and see what we remembered and
Yeah,
what was important. So we've always done that. It's just like it's such a good tool um, to know where your players are at.
yeah. I mean, sometimes in our stream game, well, a lot of times in our stream game, we'll just go around and everyone will recap something from the previous session as well. So like all the players kind of like weigh in, and then like you said, the DM gets to sit back and see what they remember. Everyone remembers, and usually people remember different details.
Yep.
Um, and sometimes they'll remember something that you as the GM maybe didn't. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
um, do you prefer playing or GMing? I know you said you just recently started GMing.
Yeah. Well, I'd been GMing for about 3 years, but I think I've really realized that I prefer playing.
Yeah.
Because I love having one character to have to dive into and completely flesh them out. Where comparatively with DMing, I don't really get to do that. It's like you don't get to stick with one NPC. You have to go through multiple, and then you're in different cities and different plots, and it's just a little bit too much, and I don't get emotionally attached to my own campaign, which is really sad, but I come to realize that for myself.
What what are the characters you're playing now?
Well, right now I'm currently playing a Drider, who is neutral good, and she is very much a soft, soft druid that is her name's Lesia, and currently she's playing in Felix's campaign, so my boyfriend's campaign, and we're actually getting to the end of his campaign in a couple months. So it's like this is the part where the characters are starting to become more of like really high level and stuff.
Yeah.
And technically, she actually right now she's a god, but she doesn't know how to use her god powers. So she's really like she's still level 14, but she kind of knows a little bit about god stuff. But that was thrusted on her, and now she has to take responsibility. Um, my second character I'm playing is a character called Bree, and she is an Azamar. Homebrew Azamar though, so it's definitely not the normal Azamar where we pretty much made it that her wings are out at all times and she can fly whenever. But it's also like we put mechanics on it so that she can fly out of combat 10 minutes times her level, is how long she can fly outside. And
That sounds like
then
a third edition game.
yeah.
Just the
Yeah.
mechanics of it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Um so yeah, she's great. I'm having probably the most fun with her because I get to really dive into her emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Because she's a character that has very much a hard time figuring out emotions. She grew up in a very tough society, like very much just like, focus. Emotions are kind of baggage that you don't talk about. So
Sounds like my
I'm trying.
childhood.
I
Tougher
know,
than a
right?
tougher than a drider though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the thing with Lesia is that she is such a soft soul that her entire shtick, her entire thing is that she was too soft and she left.
Yeah.
She left because she didn't like the society, as you know, how bad the society can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and her whole thing is that she was avoiding responsibility of she was supposed to be the next matriarch or something like that, but like the next power. And so she kind of left that and was like, no, let's be a hippie and be with the trees and stuff like that. So her main arc was her fighting her mother. So um but yeah, it's Bree on the other end is just like, she's actually a very interesting character because she's in a society that is very, strong. We mixed pretty much Sparta with Vikings and with a Mayan aesthetic. Like
Nice.
that's, yeah, so it's like her whole culture is very much just like battle, honor, you know, put all your emotions to the side and get your shit done. Um so but what the interesting thing I really like about the character is that she doesn't know she's in a cult. She absolutely believes in everything that the society is doing. It's ruled by like a god, but a physical god, like a god
Yeah.
that you can go and say hello to. And this god is very much just like, you go die for me because I'm your god, do it. And the character I'm playing absolutely believes in this god being like, yeah, no, they're good. But slowly in the campaign we're learning that the god is not that great. Like it's like not really what she has been brought up to know. However, that means that she resists it more because you're essentially talking to somebody who's a brainwash victim. So they will deny and until you get like the physical evidence in front of them. So which makes her a really interesting character because I love playing characters that are wrong. Like in general, like I know they are wrong, but I play them that they think they are right. So I love those characters. Those are my
Yeah.
favorite.
Complex.
Yeah, complex and such a great um it's like it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge to see them grow, and like you get to really see them from the beginning until the end of how much they've grown. And that's one of the things that I think people are going to like when it comes to like Sips. Like he's the same, that I'm playing a character that is wrong, and and they think that they're right, but they are indeed wrong. So, and it's interesting because you have to conflict with your own personal morals when
Yeah.
playing with those people, like playing those characters. I have to go like, I don't want to do this, but they do, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it.
I mean, that's the part of playing a role, right? A character. It's not you. It's the
Yeah.
character. Um,
Yeah.
we did a video about like the idea of making up a cultist background for D&D, and
Hmm.
then we're like, it would be fun to try and to play a game where the players are all cultists, but they don't know they're cultists. To get to the aha moment where like, oh shit, we're in a cult.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's gonna happen to my character. And it's
Yeah.
gonna be great. It's gonna completely shatter her character, and then I
Yeah.
have to build her up again. It's gonna be great.
you're gonna be like filling out this questionnaire and checking all the boxes, like, and you get to the end. If you check 3 or more of these boxes, you may be in a cult.
Maybe you are in a cult. Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Although Charles Kahn says cult is just a new religion that hasn't caught on yet.
Pretty much. But it's a brutal one.
Yeah. Are you a musician?
No. No. Cannot. I did do piano for 4 years, but I cannot tell you what a note looks like.
Oh,
Like
because there's a question in the chat about playing guitar, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't.
No, I don't play.
Me neither. Matter of fact, people will pay handsomely to have me not play.
Get that cash that way.
Yeah. Hold them hostage. So when things finally free up, what's the first game you want to play?
When things really free up.
Yeah, when things open back up, before the end times end.
Yeah. I mean, I know it sounds lame, but it's like I would like to just join another 5e D&D group that I've never met before. Like out, but actually physically, like I would love to go do that. But I still, like I said, I would like to maybe try Call of Cthulhu. So that might be a thing I want to check out. So
yeah. We had mentioned, like, we were talking a little bit beforehand, and we kind of briefly met at PAX Unplugged. Do you have any conventions on your radar that you'd like to hit once things go back to normal?
Yeah, I mean, God, I would love to go back to PAX Unplugged. That was my favorite, absolutely. There's a con in Texas that had actually, like, before COVID hit, I was planning to go to this con, and it was great. It was going to be so great because they were going to like fly us there, and we were going to like have our own like person to show us around because we're idiots and we don't know what we're doing. So I was that was like a con, and I really wanted to go because I'd never been to Texas. I've never. So I really wanted to just explore that.
Well, Texas is open. I don't recommend, but Texas
I'm not going. Canada won't let me, so it's like no.
Or if you get out, they won't let you back in.
Yeah, they'll just be like, you made your choice, you go over there. But yeah, I mean, there actually is some cons coming up in Canada. I'm not sure what's gonna happen. I'm signed up for them, but I don't know if they're gonna go because it's like I got Calgary and then I got Edmonton. So it's just like one of those. I'm not sure because it's in July late July is Calgary and then September is Edmonton. So I'm kind of not sure what's happening there.
So. My wife got her second shot last week. I get mine today, and my son gets his first like in a week or something, I think. Mm-hmm. So we are getting closer to being vaccinated here. And then I don't know what I'm gonna do. So, PAX Unplugged is towards the end of the year, but I don't know. That one's close for us. So, like, if we go and I don't like the vibe of how things are going, it would be easy to leave.
Yeah, you have that option where it's like I have to make a commitment.
Yeah.
That's a 6-hour plane ride for me.
You got to make it to Gen Con at least once too. That is definitely.
Absolutely. I forgot. Yeah, that absolutely. I want to go to Gen Con, and I think we were actually like gonna pair up with the Hit Point Press for their booth there.
Okay.
So, because I know they have a booth there every year, but I mean with COVID, nah. But yeah, I think we were gonna do something with that because and I love to do a panel at Gen Con for sure. It sucks. It was like the very first panel I ever did. Was PAX Unplugged, and that was a life goal of mine is to do a panel, and I was like, yes, I did it. And then COVID hit, and I was like, I guess I'm never doing one again because it's like
and we're done.
And we're done. It's just
Yeah.
like it sucked so bad because I
Yeah.
wanted to do it my entire life, and then I finally got to, and now it's like, well, now you gotta wait.
Yeah. You'll be back to it in no time for sure. So we are just past the hour mark. Final thoughts before
Right.
we head on out?
Final thoughts. I mean, it was nice to be on and to talk to you, and thanks for having me on in general. Uh, Hopefully we can see each other again one day.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. If not this year, next, it'll happen. I want to thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been a joy to talk with you and everyone else. Until next time, stay nerdy.